This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
I'm Aislinn Green, and this is Unpacked, the podcast that unpacks the world's most interesting destinations and the deeper stories behind travel. This month, we're diving into Afara's annual Where to Go list, and this year's list is a little different because in 2026, we want to lessen the burden on over-touristed destinations and help expand visitation to other parts of the world. And that's why our editors carefully selected 24 emerging regions and overlooked cities that I promise will inspire you to start planning your next great adventure. We released the full list on December 4th, and on Unpacked over the next 2 months, we're going to be exploring 15 of those destinations by talking with the writers who traveled to and shared our favorite new places. In this episode, I'm talking with Alexandra Owens, a travel and food writer. In 2025, Alexandra traveled to Laikipia, Kenya, a county about 140 miles north of Nairobi that's transforming into East Africa's new center of responsible safaris. At Afar, we've advocated for responsible safari tourism for years, but we've doubled down on it in the wake of Tanzania's Great Migration controversy. We covered that topic on our sister podcast, View from Afar, so if you want a deep dive into that link is in the show notes. Alexandra also focuses on conservation and tourism, as well as Africa as a whole. So she was drawn to Laikipia's evolution, a story that threads together colonialism and land renewal in ways that responsible safari tourism can really benefit local communities. In this episode, Alexandra shares the rare protected species that you might see here, like rhinos. There are several rhino sanctuaries in the region, as well as the community-focused wildlife conservancies and sustainable luxury lodges that are putting this part of East Africa on the travel map. Alexandra, welcome to Unpacked. It's really fun to actually see all of these travel writers whose bylines I've seen for years and actually meet them face to face. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on with you.
So we're here today to talk about our Where to Go 2026 list. And you wrote about Laikipia, Kenya, which is such a fascinating place to talk about right now because there's all of these issues with over-tourism in the Serengeti, and this is absolutely more off the tourist trail in many ways. So what took you there?
Yeah, so I was traveling around East Africa, and I wanted to dig a little deeper into Kenya beyond the typical trip to the Mara. And so a couple of good friends of mine who work in the safari industry, they suggested Laikipia. It's less famous than the Mara, obviously, which is kind of the first place people hit, but really rivals it in terms of wildlife. It's where you'll find half of the black rhinos in Kenya and other endangered species like Grevy's zebra and like African wild dogs, which have become quite rare.
Yeah, wow. So you were traveling throughout East Africa. What were you doing?
Sometimes it's funny, like I'll go over there at sub-Saharan Africa and mostly Southern Africa, but sometimes East is like what I really specialize in as a writer. And so like I had been in Southern Africa, so like South Africa and Zambia for like a couple weeks. And then I was going to Uganda and I found rather than going back home, it made sense to go somewhere in between and to fly between Southern and Eastern Africa. And actually, you kind of have to go through Kenya unless you're going to fly private, which I'm not.
You don't fly private?
No, I don't. Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I have a week. I was like, I'm going to figure out something in Kenya. And yeah.
It's perfect. It's amazing. And so just backing up a little bit, I'm curious to know what led you to kind of specialize in Africa as a travel writer.
Yeah. So I really have just fallen in love with writing about conservation, tourism, and wildlife. I wanted to be a zookeeper as a kid.
Perfect. Yes. Well, I'm seeing it all now. It's a natural.
Yeah. And so it kind of, Africa has so many amazing places like Laikipia that are really doing wonderful things for conservation. And so it kind of just naturally happened that a lot of the stories that caught my eye, I just have ended up going there over and over again. And I've just been really lucky to make that happen.
Congratulations on, kind of achieving your young self's goal. We'll get to the story of conservation in this region, but it sounds like it kind of dates back to some conflict between ranchers and the indigenous people. So could you kind of set the scene for us a little bit?
Yeah. So when the colonial British settlers first claimed land in Laikipia back in the early 20th century, they evicted the pastoralist communities who really lived by grazing cattle like throughout the grasslands in Laikipia, which is on a plateau. So they evicted the Maasai, the Samburu, and like the other communities out of the highlands to make room for commercial farms and ranches. So like not small family farms, but like large commercial farms. And then even after Kenya gained its independence from Britain in the 60s, the land actually didn't revert to the pastoralists. It went to either Kenyan farmers who wanted to keep commercial ranches or to the descendants of the British ranchers. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not great. It's not what you want.
Yeah. No, okay. So a painful
Yeah,
history there.
it is. Yeah, and it's still very much a national issue today because a lot of people consider the land to be stolen. And there's continue to be some violent clashes, especially when there's like a drought, because the pastoralists who are grazing their cattle need to look for land where they can graze their cattle.
So how then did we get to this place where tourism is a bigger part of it? And is that part of the conservation story? Like, what is the
It is.
scene today?
Yeah. So part of this is there was also a poaching crisis, I think in the 80s, particularly with rhino. So that kind of led some of the smaller scale ranchers to say, you know what, we're going to start conservancies instead on some of our farms. And LGOG was like one of the first ones, I believe. And so they were ranchers originally, and then they started a small rhino protection area, and then that kind of blossomed into what it is today. But basically, many of these community run or private conservancies, because some of the private conservancies have like now transferred their rights back to the communities. And so these are based on the former ranches, and they're able to work hand in hand with the indigenous people to kind of transform the degraded land, because the land was really quite ruined by large scale ranching, into prime habitat for wildlife. And that also benefits the pastoralists because it's better for the cattle to eat as well, because they were moving the cattle basically from place to place. So it never really ruined the land for the wildlife. It's the large scale ranching that was the issue.
Got it. And I imagine they probably have smaller herds than like a large
Yeah,
commercial operation. So
correct.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I mean, they sold some of it, sure, but it was like on a smaller scale.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like it's not just a conservation story, but it's kind of like, is it fair to say it's a restoration story
Absolutely.
as well? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So what does it look like? What does it feel like now? What can travelers do?
Yeah. So a lot of it is based around these small conservancies. In 2019, I think, like right before the pandemic, they decided, okay, we're going to form like an actual, I don't know if you'd call it a governance board, but like they'll decide, like, okay, we're going to have a community grazing program and decide, like, we're all going to work together on these projects.
That sounds amazing. It sounds like there's probably some different specialties in each of these conservancies. Could you have a more, I don't know, quote unquote, traditional safari experience too?
Yeah. A lot of them run a traditional safari where you wake up in the morning too early sometimes by my standards. And then you go out again in the afternoon. They have the big five, if that's what you're interested in seeing. And again, they have like a crazy amount of rhinos, more than any other part. I mean, if you've been to other parts of Africa, like that can be one of the hardest things to see. So it's very special there. And then they have a lot of animals that like you might not see other places. Something that's quite special that people have become, I've noticed, I think on Instagram, from the people I follow, they have melanistic leopards.
Oh, I don't know what that is. Yeah.
The same species as any leopard, but it's basically the opposite of albino, I think.
Oh,
And so
yes,
like
the
they're all black.
melanin. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And people are very, I guess because of the area, that genetic trait is more common in Laikipia. So like photographers love them. So that's become a very popular sighting. And then it's special because in this area, there are still quite a lot of villages. And sometimes I find other places in Africa, you go on safari and you feel a bit like you're in a bubble.
Yeah.
Here, it's easy to visit the village and you can see like beading, or you can go on bushwalks with them. And the people who's your guide actually are from the local area. So they often grew up on the land that you're going on
Oh,
safari.
how neat.
Yeah, it's very special to actually get to meet people who live there.
Okay. Do you have a moment from your trip where you had a local guide and you could really tell that they either had a long-term relationship with this land or just a deeper knowledge bank?
Yeah, I mentioned this in my story, but my guide Peter is from the area. He grew up there and just loves wildlife. And working as for Segura, like, really gave him the chance to get his training to become, because to be a safari guide, like, you need to do lots of formal training. It costs a lot of money. And so this gave him the chance to follow a dream. But like, we were driving through the bush and there's like a bunch of zebras, and he just stops the car and he's like, oh, there's lions. And I'm like, where? Because usually you hear like an alarm call, you see a footprint, like something. And he's like, no, they're here. And he just wants to wait for the lions. And I was like, where are the lions? He's like, it's just a feeling. I just know they're here somewhere. And sure enough, then a lion starts stalking the zebra. And I was like, because he said like that he just growing up and knowing that you, when you're walking around with your cattle, when you're in your village, you just learn this like sixth sense of understanding where the lions are.
Were you able to tap into any of your own lion wisdom?
No, I'm still waiting for mine.
That seems like a very beneficial sense to have, but how incredible. Can we talk a little bit more about the lodges then? Because there is a new lodge. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's an N Beyond property. It's N Beyond Suyon. And I haven't been there myself yet. It just opened, I think, at the end of July. But it's very exciting because it's the first, like, I don't want to say branded because I don't really feel, I guess it's a brand, but like,
Yeah.
it's the first, like, known name in Laikipia County. I should mention Laikipia is a county, by the way.
Got it. Yeah. Helpful.
And yeah, and a plateau. And so Suyon's been a conservancy. They just didn't have a lodge in it. And so even though the lodge just opened, the Conservancy has been working with multiple NGOs to rewild the Conservancy from a ranch.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
the ranches have been there.
How long does that take? What's that life cycle?
It's been decades.
Yeah, okay.
It's been decades. Yeah.
Wow.
And so like one of the major NGOs they worked with was Space for Giants, which is an elephant NGO. Because Laikipia has the second largest population of elephants in Kenya. Suyon Conservancy is a really important corridor through Kenya for the elephants so that they can move from the northern conservancies to the south of Kenya.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like a pretty cool place to keep an eye on.
Yeah, it is. And it's also one of the things I like that I saw that they offer is, like a lot of the other conservancies, they have kept it as like a working cattle ranch, but then again, not in the way that these used to be large cattle ranches, but they actually offer classes for anyone in the local communities that want them to learn holistic ranch management courses.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so then also guests are able to walk with nomadic herders, like across the land with camels or with cows, and to like learn about this ancient practice.
This episode is brought to you by FX's The Beauty Official Podcast. Join host Evan Ross Katz on the official podcast for FX's hottest new series, The Beauty, taking you behind the scenes with its amazing stars as they discuss the show's most jaw-dropping moments. Featuring Evan Peters, Anthony Ramos, Jeremy Pope, Ashton Kutcher, Rebecca Hall, Bella Hadid, Meghan Trainor, Isabella Rossellini, Jessica Alexander, and Ari Grainer. Search FX's The Beauty wherever you listen to podcasts.
They always tell you there's a catch, a compromise, an asterisk. Terms apply. See store for details. May be less than advertised. May vary by mood. Probably. Sprite Zero Sugar? It's different. It's the lemon lime flavored refreshment you want with zero sugar. So, no fast voice? No caveats. Just refreshment. This is Sprite Zero Sugar. Obey your thirst.
Did you stay at any other lodges that you would recommend?
I really like Lua Wilderness.
Okay.
That's also one of the older ones. It's known for its rhinos, like a lot of the conservancies. They also have like an amazing food program They make their own goat cheese.
Oh, wow. Yeah. We'll travel
Yeah.
for cheese.
Exactly. Can't say no.
Do you want to say anything else about the rhinos? Because you've mentioned them a few times, and I know that's been a specific focus, but is there anything else that travelers should be aware of?
Yeah, I think that one of the really exciting things about it, well, there's two. I mentioned, I think briefly, that a lot of the conservancies that focus specifically on the rhinos are really close neighbors. And it's this collaborative project where they're trying to build, and I say trying, but it's basically happening right now, to build one of the largest contiguous rhino sanctuaries in the world. And so it's going to be in this summer, Segura opened their section of it. And so the idea is that they're going to drop the fences and then all of the rhinos will be able to be together. And this is in reaction to the rhino poaching crisis that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And this is in collaboration, by the way, with the Kenya Wildlife Service and the Zeitz Foundation, which is a wildlife-focused foundation. The leader of that also owns Segura. And then the other really exciting thing, I think, is Opajeta is another conservancy that it has the last living northern white rhinos, which I feel have gotten a lot of media attention. And so they're actually a mother and a daughter. So like northern white rhinos are functionally extinct because they can't breed anymore. And so Opajeta is working with scientists, I think in Germany, to get the eggs from the rhinos and try to implant them in southern white rhinos. So that conservancy is actually working to bring back the northern white rhino in a way that they can breed.
Yeah, that's something to certainly keep an eye on. Okay. In general, everything that you have said, I think, is such a strong argument for going and spending time in this part of Kenya. But why would you say that travelers should go, especially if someone is a first-time visitor or safari goer?
Yeah, I'm going to give you my soapbox answer.
Okay, let's hear it.
My soapbox. I feel like over tourism in East Africa, and especially like in the Serengeti Mara ecosystem, has become such a hot topic, especially like in these last few months. Like we saw these terrible videos, really boils my blood, of people disrespecting the wildebeest and endangering the wildlife and themselves by blocking them. And now like we're learning that a major hotel brand has allegedly opening a luxury hotel in a migratory corridor.
Yeah.
And I say allegedly, no one knows.
Yep.
Well, Africa is a place that has incredibly responsible operators and lodges and agents. Then there's lots of progress in like the last years. The truth is not all of them are. And so I personally feel that we have a responsibility while traveling to like these fragile ecosystems that we need to do right by the animals and the people. I think Laikipia shows us that safari can not only be ethical, but it's actually can be a champion for conservation and community. And it can be a force for good. And I think the most effective way to help that progress is by voting with your dollars and to show that safari and tourism can have a positive impact. So then on top of that, it's one of my favorite safari experiences. Just go because it's fun. It's high value, low impact. I think if you've never been on safari before, it's hard to overemphasize how important it is to go someplace that isn't crowded. Like not only is it the right thing to go somewhere that's not over touristed, but it's so much better to be out someplace where you're not surrounded by 80 other cars. Like, trust, it's not fun. It's terrible.
It looks terrible. Like nobody wants to be in those crowds.
The animals stop behaving like themselves. It's awful. And in a place like these conservancies, there's typically the only lodge on the conservancy. You're the only one usually at a sighting, maybe one other car. One of my favorite sightings was we got to see like a mother leopard and her two cubs. We were with them for 2 hours and it was not an unethical sighting because we followed at a distance. They were not upset.
Yeah.
They didn't even know we were there. And you get this privilege of watching animals just be themselves and like be relaxed. And you get to really understand their behavior. If you're a photographer, you get these amazing opportunities for photography where you're not having a car in the background. Yeah, it's just so special.
So we published a View from Afar episode where Jen Flowers interviewed a couple of people, the CEO of And Beyond included, and they were saying that, everyone has this vision in their head of kind of like the big five, like that's what people want to see. But it also sounds like you could see a lot of that in Laikipia, but you can also see so much more, right?
Yes. And I think that that's such an underrated part of safari as well. Like my favorite animal to see are African wild dogs, or sometimes people call them painted wolves. I think they're fascinating. You can see them I think there's less than 6,000 left now. And I don't understand why people aren't more excited to see them.
Do you think it's because the word dog makes people think it's not that special? I mean, not special, but unique.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Exactly. Well, that's why people are like, some people prefer calling them painted wolves.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, they're a fascinating animal to watch.
How so?
Well, I personally have a thing for animals that have like a complex social structure. And so they live just like wolves, like in a pack. If you get to see the family hunting, they're amazing collaborative hunters. If you see them with their pups, they like play with the pups. They're an animal. I've read a study, and I don't even know if this is proven, so don't take me for this. I read that they vote when they're going to hunt by like sneezing.
What?
Yeah.
I'm Googling that for sure.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah.
They're amazing animals, and I feel like they get the short end of the stick just because people are obsessed with the big five.
Yes, exactly. You're making me want to go immediately. So, well, I would love to close with your advice to people. What do they need to know before going here? How do you get here? For people who have never taken a safari before, what do they need to know to bring? It's a different kind of trip, right?
Oh gosh, I could talk about this for hours. It's actually quite easy to get here. There's a direct flight it's definitely from New York. It's, I believe, JFK to Nairobi on Kenya Airways, and then there's plenty of flights, connections on other major airlines. And then you'll have to do a short charter flight from Nairobi to your lodge, but it's only about an hour. And then major vaccinations, you have to do yellow fever to go to Kenya. I believe that Laikipia is low risk malaria.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because it's on a plateau, so it's actually like a higher elevation.
So you don't have to take a month's worth of malaria pills.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like your risk tolerance.
You have a higher one, would you say?
No. I always take malaria pills.
Okay.
Get the crazy malaria pill dreams.
I hear it's more of a nightmare. I'm actually taking my first safari in southern Tanzania next month. So I'm also asking selfishly for my own preparation. But yes, what else do you think people should know?
I would say if you're going there only to Laikipia, I mean, I'm like one of those people who can just go on safari for months and like not get bored.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're only going there, at least a week, and then maybe split it between 2 conservancies, or 3 if you're someone who gets restless. But you could also combine it with Samburu National Reserve that's further north. That's quite remote, and it's becoming also more popular. And it's a great opportunity to spend more time with the Samburu people because it's their traditional homeland. And then to do like some bushwalking with them, that's amazing. I'm someone who's like quite independent, and I like to plan everything myself, but I always recommend on safari, especially if you're going to do multiple destinations, to hire an advisor. It's good to have someone helping you with your transfers because those are quite often charter flights. And have someone book those for you is better than not, because those can change last minute, they can cancel. And to have someone who can quickly be on the ground Africa time to like change them is really important. And then also an advisor might know things about the lodges that you don't know. Like they can suggest, hey, like there's this really special experience they have in the bush that you might not know about. Again, if you're just booking one lodge and that's all you're doing, like if you're staying at and beyond for 1 week, then maybe it's not necessary because they can handle everything for you. But if you're going to different places, I suggest an advisor. 2 of my favorites who know a lot about Laikipia are Tamsin Fricker. She works with Travel Artistry Africa. And then Chris Liebenberg at Piper and Heath. They're both very conservation focused advisors who like only do Africa.
Okay, we can include links to those in the show notes too. That's a great resource. And maybe something that people don't think about. What about packing? And what have you seen people do wrong in this way?
You mean the things I still do wrong every time?
Yes, please tell us what you still do wrong.
Oh gosh. I would say definitely bring layers. I feel like it's always going to get colder at night than you think. No matter where I am, I don't know why, but like on safari, I feel like whether it's a desert or a high elevation, like it can be so warm during the day and then at night, suddenly I'm freezing cold. A lot of places, because you're like in a tent or it's just sustainable, they don't have heating. So like bring more than you think.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's good to know because I've been trying to pack super light with an eye to like, there's the weight restrictions, but it sounds like maybe throw a couple more things in there.
Oh, and if you're a photographer, I always like to say to bring a waterproof cover for your camera. Rain can come out of nowhere, especially if you're traveling during the rainy season. And sometimes the cars either don't have a roof or the sides are open. And a wind neck buff.
Ah, yes. Okay. Those are all, I love those.
Yeah, it's dustier than you think.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yes. And not necessarily for the wind, but for the dust. You mentioned the seasonality. Is there a time of year that you would recommend?
I feel like it's good like all year round. It might depend on like, what you want to see, like especially if you're a birder, like it might be better to go like when it's rainier. If you want to see babies, go in the spring, but there's always like something to see. I feel like sometimes people really like hyper focus on specific seasons. And the only places in Africa where like you really can't go are places that are like have a lot of water, and then sometimes like roads might be flooded. But Laikipia is not like that.
Yeah. Okay. So don't let the time of year stop you. Love it. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Alexandra. It was really nice to chat with you.
Nice chatting with you too. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining this special Where to Go episode. In the show notes, we've included links to all the places Alexandra recommended, as well as to her website and social handles. And if this is your first time listening to one of our Where to Go episodes, in the show notes, you'll also find links to our past and future episodes, which we will continue to roll out in the new year. Happy travels!